I went to the hospital to take care of my husband after his accident. While he was pretending to sleep, the head nurse slipped a folded note into my hand and walked away. It said, "You're being lied to. Don't trust him. Check the cameras before you come back." But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and fear. Celia Moreno had spent enough time in these places. When her mother broke her hip, when her youngest came down with pneumonia at age 6, to know that the scent never changed. It clung to the walls, the furniture, even the clothing of people who left. She sat in the vinyl chair beside Luis's bed, her hands folded in her lap. The position was practiced, patient, the kind of posture she'd perfected over 2 decades of waiting. For him to come home late, for excuses to make sense, for answers that never arrived. Luis lay, still beneath the white hospital sheets. His left arm rested in a sling, the fabric of pale blue that looked almost childish against his dark skin. A line of stitches traced his temple, neat and precise. The doctor had said he was lucky. Minor concussion, soft tissue damage, nothing that wouldn't heal. The monitor beside the bed beeped its steady rhythm. 68 beats per minute. Normal. Stable. Celia watched the numbers change on the screen, then looked back at her husband's face. His eyes were closed, his breathing even. But something about the set of his jaw, the slight tension in his neck, felt wrong. She'd known this man for 23 years, been married to him for 21. She knew when he was asleep and when he was faking. "The officer said you were rear-ended," Celia said quietly. She kept her voice soft, conversational. "On Highway 99, just past the Williams exit. They said the other driver didn't stop." Luis didn't respond. The monitor continued its rhythmic beeping. "They're still looking for the vehicle," she continued. "Gray sedan. Maybe a Honda." The witness wasn't sure. Nothing. Not even a flutter of his eyelids. Celia leaned back in her chair. The vinyl creaked beneath her weight. Outside the room, footsteps passed in the hallway. Someone laughed. A medication cart rattled by. She studied Luis's face. The stubble on his jaw was uneven, like he'd shaved in a hurry that morning. She noticed the cologne then, faint but unmistakable. Not the Old Spice he kept in their bathroom. Something else. Something with notes of cedar and citrus. Expensive. Her gaze drifted to the small table beside the bed. His wallet. His keys. A plastic bag containing his clothes. No phone. "They couldn't find your cell," she said. "The EMTs looked. The police looked. Maybe it flew out during the impact." His breathing didn't change. 68 beats per minute. But when she mentioned their daughter's name, Nadia called. "She's worried. Wanted to know if you'd still be able to help with her application essays." His chest rose just slightly higher. The rhythm broke for half a second, then resumed. Celia stood. She smoothed her jeans, adjusted the strap of her purse on her shoulder. She moved to the window and looked out at the parking lot below. Rows of cars gleaming in the late afternoon sun. Mountains in the distance, brown and hazy. Red Bluff in autumn looked tired. The orchards were ready for harvest. The ground cracked for months without rain. The town felt small from up here. Every street familiar. Every building holding some memory. She'd raised 3 children in this town. Worked the produce stand with her parents since she was 16. Knew the names of almost everyone who shopped there. And yet, standing here, she felt like a stranger. "I should go fill out the paperwork," she said, still facing the window. "The nurse said there are forms for the insurance. Accident reports. You know how it is." Behind her, Luis said nothing. Celia walked to the door, her hand on the frame. She paused, looked back at him one more time. "I'll be back soon," she said. The monitor beeped. 68, 69, 68. She left the room. The nurse's station sat at the end of the hallway, a U-shaped desk piled with charts and computer monitors. 2 nurses worked behind it, one typing rapidly, the other on the phone. Celia approached slowly. She'd already spoken to the doctor earlier, already signed the initial intake forms, but there was always more paperwork. Hospitals ran on paper and patience. Mrs. Moreno, a woman, emerged from a side office. Tall, perhaps in her early 50s, with graying brown hair pulled back in a practical bun. Her name badge read Catherine Doyle, RN. Yes, Celia said. I have some additional consent forms for you. Catherine moved toward the desk, reaching for a clipboard. Her movements were efficient, practiced. And I wanted to check, does your husband have any allergies we should know about? The form from the ER was incomplete. No allergies, Celia said. He's healthy. No medications. Catherine nodded, writing something down. Then she glanced up. Her eyes, pale blue, sharp, met Celia's for just a moment. I'll need you to initial here and here, Catherine said, pointing to 2 blank lines. Celia took the clipboard. As she did, Catherine's hand brushed against hers. Something small and folded pressed into her palm. Paper. Celia's fingers closed around it instinctively. Catherine's expression didn't change. She simply turned back to the desk, filing the clipboard away. That's everything for now, Catherine said. Someone will call you if his condition changes. Thank you, Celia managed. She walked away from the station, her heart beating faster now. Not running, not obvious, just moving with purpose toward the elevators. Once inside, doors closed, she opened her hand. The paper was small, folded twice. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. He's lying to you. The accident wasn't random. Check the security cameras before you come back. Celia read it 3 times. Her hands didn't shake. Her breathing stayed steady. She thought about Luis in that bed, the cologne, the missing phone, the way his breathing changed when she mentioned Nadia. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor. Celia stepped out into the lobby. Families sat in clusters near the entrance. A television played the news silently in the corner. She walked to a bench near the window and sat down. The afternoon light slanted through the glass, warm against her face. She opened her wallet, brown leather, worn soft at the edges, and slid the note behind a photograph of her children. Nadia at 17, grinning in her graduation cap. Miguel at 14, serious and thoughtful. Rosa at 10, still missing her front teeth. Celia closed the wallet. She looked out at the parking lot. Okay, she whispered to herself. Then she stood and walked toward the exit. The drive home took 15 minutes. Celia followed the familiar route, out of the hospital complex, left onto Main Street, past the library and the post office and the old movie theater that had been closed for 3 years now. Red Bluff looked the same as it always did. Quiet, predictable. She turned onto Sycamore Avenue, where oak trees lined both sides of the street, their branches forming a canopy overhead. The house sat near the end of the block, a single-story ranch with faded yellow siding and a lawn that needed mowing. Celia pulled into the driveway, cut the engine. For a moment, she just sat there. This house had been their first real purchase. They'd saved for 3 years to afford the down payment. Luis had been so proud the day they signed the papers. He'd carried her over the threshold, even though she'd laughed and told him it was unnecessary. They'd painted the walls together, planted the rose bushes out front, built the swing set in the backyard. All of it felt distant now, like a story someone else had lived. She got out of the car and walked to the front door. Inside, the house was dim and cool. She set her purse on the counter, kicked off her shoes. The living room still held the shape of their life. Couch against one wall, television on a stand, framed photos on the shelves. But everything felt hollow, empty. Rosa was at Celia's parents' house. Miguel was at soccer practice. Nadia was in Sacramento visiting a campus. Celia was alone. She sat on the edge of the couch and thought about the note. He's lying to you. She'd known that already. Had known it for years. The late nights, the vague explanations, the way he looked away when she asked direct questions. She thought about the first time she'd noticed the distance between them. It had been 5 years ago, maybe 6. Luis had started working longer hours at the warehouse. Said they were understaffed. Said he was trying to make extra money. But the paychecks never reflected it. When she asked, he got defensive, angry. Said she didn't trust him. Said she didn't appreciate how hard he worked. So she stopped asking. Then came the phone calls he took outside. The weekends he claimed he was fishing with friends, but came home without any fish. The smell of perfume on his jacket that he explained away as someone at work. Celia had told herself it was stress. That marriage had hard seasons. That if she just kept the house running, kept the kids fed and happy, eventually things would balance out. Her mother had warned her once, years ago. They'd been sitting at the produce stand, sorting through a delivery of apples. Some women leave too early, her mother had said quietly. They panic at the first sign of trouble, but others, they wait too long. They stay until there's nothing left to save. Celia had nodded, changed the subject. Now, sitting in the dim living room, she understood which kind of woman she'd become. She stood, walked to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator even though she wasn't hungry. The house felt wrong. Too quiet, too still. On the counter, her phone buzzed. A text from Nadia. "How's Dad? Is he okay?" Celia stared at the message. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. Finally, she typed back, "He's stable. Resting. Don't worry." She set the phone down. Then she pulled the note from her wallet and read it again. Checked the security cameras. The next morning, Celia returned to the hospital. She didn't go to Luis's room. Instead, she found the main administrative office on the first level, near the billing department. A young man sat behind the desk, typing on a computer. He looked up when she approached. "Can I help you?" "I need to speak to someone about security footage," Celia said. She kept her voice calm. "Factual. My husband was brought in yesterday after an accident. Luis Moreno. Room 314. The man frowned slightly. "Is there a problem?" "I think there might have been an altercation before the accident," Celia said. "I need to see the footage from when he arrived." "You'd need to talk to hospital security for that." "Where's that?" He pointed down the hall. "End of the corridor. Take a right. There's a sign." Celia thanked him and walked in the direction he'd indicated. The security office was small, just a narrow room with monitors lining one wall and a desk cluttered with paperwork. A man in his late 50s sat in a swivel chair watching the screens. He looked up when Celia knocked on the open door. "Help you?" "I'm Celia Moreno," she said. "My husband was admitted yesterday. Room 314. I think something happened before he got here. Something he's not telling me about." The man leaned back in his chair. "What kind of something?" "I think there was an argument," Celia said. "Maybe in the parking lot. I need to see the footage. We don't usually share that with family members. I'm his wife." The man studied her for a moment. Then he sighed. "What time did he come in?" "Around 2 in the afternoon." He turned to the monitors, typing something into the computer. A series of timestamps appeared on the screen, each linked to a different camera angle. "This could take a while," he said. "I'll wait." He pulled up the footage from the main entrance first. Cars pulling in and out. Ambulances. People walking through the sliding doors. Then he switched to the parking lot cameras. 2:14 p.m. A silver sedan pulled into a space near the emergency entrance. The driver's side door opened. Luis stepped out. Celia leaned closer. "Stop there." The security officer paused the footage. Luis was walking, not limping, not injured. He moved toward the entrance, hands in his pockets. "He wasn't hurt," Celia said quietly. The officer fast-forwarded. 30 minutes passed on the screen. Then an hour. At 3:42 p.m., Luis emerged from the side entrance. He looked around the parking lot, then pulled out a phone, the one he claimed was missing. He made a call, waited. 5 minutes later, another car pulled up. Dark blue. A woman stepped out. Celia's breath caught. "Can you zoom in?" she asked. The officer adjusted the angle. The woman's face became clearer. Veronica Salas, Luis's cousin, the one who came to every family barbecue, the one who hugged Celia and brought tamales at Christmas. On the screen, Veronica walked toward Luis. They stood close, talking. Veronica's hands moved sharply, gesturing. Luis shook his head, pointed toward the hospital. Veronica grabbed his arm. He pulled away. Then Luis turned and walked backward into the street. Not stumbling, not pushed, deliberate. A car swerved, brakes screaming. Luis went down hard, his body hitting the pavement. Veronica stood frozen for 3 seconds. Then she ran back to her car and drove away. Celia stared at the screen. The timestamp read 3:51 p.m. "Can I get a copy of this?" she asked. The security officer looked uncomfortable. "I'd need authorization." "My husband staged an accident," Celia interrupted. Her voice was steady. "He walked into traffic on purpose. I need this footage." The man hesitated. Then he reached for a USB drive. "Don't tell anyone where you got it," he said. Celia didn't go back to Luis's room. Instead, she drove home. The house was still empty. Miguel wouldn't be back until after school. Rosa was spending another night with her grandparents. Celia sat at the kitchen table and opened her laptop. The USB drive contained 3 video files, each showing a different angle of the parking lot. She watched them all. Twice. Luis arriving uninjured. Luis making the call. Veronica pulling up. The argument. The intentional fall. It was all there. Celia closed the laptop and stared at the wall. Why? Insurance money, maybe. A payout for an accident he could claim wasn't his fault. But that didn't explain Veronica. Didn't explain the cologne or the missing phone or the way he'd been distant for months. She opened the laptop again. This time, she logged into their shared email account. Luis had never been careful with passwords. He used the same one for everything. His birthday backward, followed by their street number. The inbox loaded. Hundreds of messages. Most were junk, promotions, spam. But then she saw a name she recognized. Veronica Salas. Celia clicked the first message. Sent 2 weeks ago. "We need to talk. This is getting complicated." Luis's response, not over email. "I'll call you." Celia scrolled further back. More messages. Some dating back 6 months. "Did you transfer the money yet? I can't keep lying to Marco about this. If Celia finds out, everything falls apart." Celia felt cold. Not angry yet. Just cold. She kept reading. Another thread. This one from 4 months ago. "The account is under my name now. Once we get the insurance payout, we split it 60/40ths. Luis's reply agreed. "But we have to be careful. She can't know until after." Celia sat back in her chair. It wasn't just an affair. It was a plan. Deliberate. Calculated. She opened another folder. Bank statements. Loan applications. Documents she didn't recognize. One caught her eye. A withdrawal from Miguel's college savings account. $8,000. Dated 3 weeks ago. Another withdrawal. Rosa's savings. $4,500. Celia's hands tightened on the edge of the table. She kept digging. Found applications for life insurance policies. Found emails about overseas accounts. Found messages where Luis talked about her like she was an obstacle, a problem to manage. "She won't notice. She never does. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her. She trusts me. Once this is done, we start fresh. Just you and me." Celia read that last line 3 times. Then she closed the laptop. She stood, walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet. A neighbor watered their lawn. A dog barked in the distance. Everything looked normal. But Celia felt something shift inside her. Not heartbreak. Not grief. Focus. She wasn't hurt anymore. She was done. Celia didn't sleep that night. She sat at the kitchen table with a laptop open, methodically going through every file, every email, every document Luis had touched in the last year. By 3 a.m, she had a clear picture. Luis and Veronica had been planning this for at least 8 months. They'd opened a joint account under Veronica's name, transferred money in small amounts, never enough to trigger alerts, but steady, consistent. The plan was simple. Stage an accident, file an insurance claim. Luis would get a payout for his injuries, whiplash, trauma, lost wages. Veronica would handle the paperwork, claim she was helping him because he was too hurt to manage it himself. Once the money came through, they'd move it offshore, start over somewhere else. And Celia, she was collateral damage. Someone who'd be left behind, confused and broke, with 3 kids to raise alone. Celia opened a new document and started writing. Names, dates, account numbers, every piece of evidence she could find. When the sun came up, she printed everything. 32 pages in total. She slid them into a manila folder and set it aside. Then she made coffee and waited. Miguel came downstairs at 7, still half asleep. He grabbed a bowl of cereal and sat at the table. "How's Dad?" he asked. "Stable," Celia said. "The doctor says he'll be discharged in a few days." Miguel nodded, spooning cereal into his mouth. "That's good." Celia watched him. 14 years old. Quiet. Thoughtful. He looked so much like Luis. Same dark eyes. Same serious expression. "Miguel," she said carefully, "did your dad ever talk to you about money? About college savings?" Miguel looked up. "Not really." "Why?" "Just wondering." He shrugged and went back to his cereal. Celia didn't push. She'd tell him eventually. All of them. But not yet. First, she had work to do. At 9 o'clock, Celia drove back to the hospital. This time, she went straight to Luis's room. He was awake, sitting up in bed, picking at a tray of hospital food. When he saw her, he smiled. "Hey," he said. "I was wondering when you'd come back." Celia closed the door behind her. She set her purse on the chair, but didn't sit down. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Better." He gestured to his arm. "Still sore, but they said I can go home tomorrow." "That's good." Luis studied her. "You okay? You look tired." "I didn't sleep much." "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I know this whole thing has been stressful." Celia crossed her arms. "Tell me about the accident again." Luis blinked. "What do you mean?" "Walk me through it," she said. "You were driving. Someone rear-ended you. What happened next?" He set down his fork. "I already told you. It happened fast. I didn't see the car until it was too late." "Where were you going?" "Home. From work." "You were on Highway 99. "Yeah." "Coming from which direction?" Luis hesitated. "North." "But your warehouse is south of here," Celia said. "Why would you be coming from the north?" He stopped, adjusted his position in the bed. "I had to drop something off. For a coworker." "What coworker?" "Does it matter?" "It might." Luis looked away. "I don't remember his name. Just a guy from the loading dock." Celia nodded slowly. "And your phone? They still haven't found it." "No. I think it's gone." "That's strange," Celia said, "because Veronica called me last night. She said you'd texted her yesterday afternoon, after the accident." The color drained from Luis's face. "She must be confused," he said quickly. "I didn't text anyone." Celia reached into her purse, pulled out her own phone. She opened the message, thread with Veronica, and held it up so Luis could see. "Luis asked me to pick up his prescriptions. Do you know which pharmacy he uses? Sent at 4:15 p.m. yesterday." Luis stared at the screen. You're lying, Celia said quietly. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Celia. I saw the footage, she interrupted. The hospital has cameras in the parking lot. I know you walked in uninjured. I know Veronica met you. I know you stepped into traffic on purpose. Luis's jaw tightened. He didn't speak. I also know about the money, Celia continued. The transfers, the offshore accounts, the insurance fraud. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Luis looked down at his hands. You wouldn't understand. Try me. He didn't answer. Celia stepped closer to the bed. I've spent 21 years with you. I've raised your children. I've kept this family together while you, she stopped, took a breath, while you planned to leave. I wasn't leaving, Luis said, but his voice was weak. Don't lie to me anymore. They sat in silence. The monitor beeped. 62 beats per minute. Finally, Luis looked up. I made mistakes. I know that. But we can fix this. We can. No, Celia said. Celia. I'm not fixing anything, she said. You are. And you're going to start by telling me everything. Luis shook his head. I can't. Then I'll go to the police, Celia said simply. I'll show them the footage, the emails, the bank records, and you'll go to jail. Luis stared at her. You wouldn't do that. Try me. He looked away. His hands gripped the edge of the bedsheet. Veronica needed money, he said finally. Her husband lost his job. They were about to lose the house. She asked me for help. So you stole from your own children. I was going to pay it back. When? He didn't answer. Celia felt the anger rise now, hot and sharp. But she kept her voice steady. How long have you been sleeping with her? Luis flinched. It's not. How long? 2 years, he whispered. Celia nodded. She'd suspected, but hearing it confirmed felt different. Final. Get out, she said. What? When they discharge you tomorrow, don't come home. Go stay with Veronica. Or your brother. I don't care. But you're not coming back to my house. Celia, please. I'm done, she said. She picked up her purse. And if you try to contact the kids, I'll file a restraining order. She walked to the door. Wait, Luis called out. We can talk about this. Celia paused, looked back at him. There's nothing left to talk about, she said. Then she left. Celia didn't go home. Instead, she drove to her parents' house. It was a small property on the edge of town, near the produce stand they'd run for 40 years. The house was old but well kept, with a vegetable garden in the back and fruit trees lining the driveway. Her mother answered the door. Elena Vargas was 68, with silver hair and tired eyes that still held warmth. Mija, she said, pulling Celia into a hug. What's wrong? Celia didn't cry. She just held on for a moment. Inside, her father sat at the kitchen table, reading the newspaper. Rosa played on the floor nearby, arranging toy animals in neat rows. Mama, Rosa said, looking up. Is Daddy okay? He's going to be fine, Celia said. She knelt down and kissed Rosa's forehead. You staying here again tonight? Yeah. Abuela said we could make cookies later. That sounds fun. Elena gestured toward the table. Sit. I'll make coffee. Celia sat across from her father. Roberto Vargas lowered his newspaper and studied her. You look like you haven't slept, he said. I haven't. Luis. Yeah. Roberto folded the newspaper carefully. Tell me. So she did. Not in front of Rosa. Elena took the little girl outside to feed the chickens, but once they were alone, Celia explained everything. The accident that wasn't. The affair. The stolen money. The plan to leave. Her father listened without interrupting. When she finished, he sat back in his chair and rubbed his jaw. What are you going to do? He asked. I'm calling the family, Celia said. Everyone. His parents. His siblings. Veronica's husband. I want them all to know what he did. Roberto frowned. That's dangerous, Mija. Luis has pride. If you humiliate him in front of everyone. He humiliated himself, Celia said. I'm just making sure people see it. And Veronica? She's part of this. She knew exactly what she was doing. Elena returned, closing the door behind her. She'd heard the last part. You're really going to do this? She asked. Yes. Her mother sat down slowly. You're stronger than I thought. I learned from you, Celia said. Elena reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Then do it right. Don't let him talk his way out of it. That evening, Celia made the calls. First, Luis's mother, then his older brother, then Veronica's husband, Marco. Each conversation was brief. She didn't explain much over the phone, just said she needed to meet with everyone, that it was urgent, that it concerned Luis. By the time she hung up, she'd arranged a meeting for the next evening at her parents' house. 7 o'clock. Everyone would be there. Miguel came home from soccer practice and found her sitting on the couch, staring at the television without really watching it. Mom, he said, you okay? She turned off the TV. Sit down. I need to talk to you. He sat, worry creasing his forehead. Celia took a breath. Your father isn't coming home when he gets out of the hospital. Miguel's eyes widened. Why not? Because he's been lying to us, Celia said gently, about a lot of things. And I can't let him keep doing that. What kind of things? I'll explain more later, she said. But right now I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Miguel nodded slowly. Did he hurt you? Not the way you're thinking, Celia said. But yes, he hurt all of us. Miguel looked down at his hands. What's going to happen? I don't know yet, Celia admitted, but we'll be okay. I promise. He didn't say anything, just leaned against her shoulder. They sat like that for a long time. The next evening, Celia's parents' house filled with people. Luis's mother, Patricia, arrived first. She was a small woman with sharp features and a permanent frown. She hugged Celia stiffly. Where's Luis? She asked. He'll be here, Celia said. Luis's brother, David, came next with his wife. Then Marco Salas, Veronica's husband, looking confused and wary. Veronica arrived last. She froze when she saw Marco sitting at the table. What's going on? She asked. Sit down, Celia said. Veronica hesitated. Then she took a seat at the far end of the table. Luis wasn't there yet. Celia had called him that morning and told him to come. He'd argued, said this was unnecessary, but she'd made it clear either he showed up or she'd go to the police immediately. At 7:15, a car pulled into the driveway. Luis walked in slowly, his arms still in the sling, his face pale. He saw the room full of people and stopped. Celia. Sit, she said. He sat. Celia stood at the head of the table. She had the manila folder in her hands. 32 pages of evidence. I asked you all here because there's something you need to know, she began. Her voice was calm, clear. Luis has been lying. To me. To his children. To all of you. Patricia frowned. What are you talking about? Celia opened the folder. She pulled out the first document, a still image from the hospital's security footage. Luis stepping into traffic. She set it on the table. The accident wasn't an accident, Celia said. Luis staged it. He walked into traffic on purpose to file a fraudulent insurance claim. The room went silent. Luis stared at the image. That's not. There's video, Celia interrupted. She pulled out her phone and played the footage. Everyone watched as Luis walked deliberately into the street. David leaned forward. What the hell, Luis? Patricia looked horrified. Why would you do this? Celia didn't let Luis answer. She pulled out the next document. Bank statements showing the transfers from Miguel's and Rose's savings accounts. He also stole from his own children, she said. $8,000 from Miguel. $4,000 from Rosa. Money they'd been saving for years. Marco stood up. Wait, what does this have to do with Veronica? Celia looked at Veronica. The other woman's face had gone white. She was his partner, Celia said. They planned this together. That's a lie, Veronica said quickly. Is it? Celia pulled out the emails. Printed copies. Dated. Time-stamped. She read one aloud. The account is under my name now. Once we get the insurance payout, we split it 60/40ths. Marco stared at his wife. Veronica. Veronica's voice cracked. It's not what it sounds like. Then explain it, Marco said. Veronica looked at Luis. He wouldn't meet her eyes. We were just trying to help each other, she said weakly. Marco, you lost your job. We were going to lose the house. I didn't know what else to do. So you stole from children? Marco's voice was rising now. You lied to me? I'm sorry. How long? Marco demanded. How long have you been doing this? Veronica didn't answer. Celia pulled out another email. This one explicit. Luis and Veronica talking about leaving their families, starting over together. She read it aloud. The room erupted. Patricia started yelling at Luis. David stood up, pacing. Marco grabbed Veronica's arm and pulled her toward the door. We're leaving, he said. Marco, wait. Now. They left. The door slammed behind them. Celia set the rest of the documents on the table. Bank records, loan applications, messages where Luis talked about Celia like she was an obstacle. Patricia read them, her hand shaking. When she finished, she looked at her son. I raised you better than this, she said quietly. Luis said nothing. David shook his head. You're a coward. I made mistakes, Luis said, but I can fix this. No, Celia said. You can't. She pulled out the last document, a police report she'd filed that afternoon. I've already reported the insurance fraud, she said, and the theft. The police are opening an investigation. Luis stood up. You called the cops? Yes. Celia, you can't. I already did. Luis looked around the room. His mother, his brother, his wife. No one was on his side. This is insane, he said. I'm your husband. Not anymore, Celia said. He stared at her. You're really doing this? I am. Luis opened his mouth, closed it. Then he turned and walked out. The door slammed again. Patricia sat down heavily. I'm sorry, she said to Celia. I don't know what happened to him. It's not your fault, Celia said. David came over and put a hand on her shoulder. If you need anything, money, help with the kids, let us know. Thank you. They stayed for another hour, talking, processing. By the time everyone left, it was after 10. Celia sat alone at the table, exhausted. Her father came in from the living room. He'd been listening from the other room, giving her space. You did good, Mija, he said. Celia nodded. She felt empty. Not sad. Not relieved. Just empty. What happens now? Her father asked. I wait, Celia said, for the police to finish their investigation, for the divorce to finalize, for life to settle. And the kids? I'll tell them the truth, she said, as much as they need to know. Her father sat down beside her. You're stronger than you think. I had to be. 3 days later, Luis was arrested. Celia watched from the living room window as 2 officers escorted him into a patrol car. He didn't look back at the house. The charges were serious: insurance fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, endangering public safety. His lawyer tried to negotiate, but the evidence was too strong. The video, the emails, the bank records. Luis pleaded guilty. 6 years in prison. The house stayed with Celia. The savings accounts were restored. The court ordered Luis to pay restitution. Veronica wasn't charged. She cooperated with the investigation and testified against Luis. But Marco filed for divorce. She lost custody of her kids. Celia didn't feel sorry for her. 6 months later, Celia stood at her parents' produce stand, helping a customer choose oranges. It was early morning. The air was cool. The mountains in the distance looked sharp and clear. Rosa played nearby, arranging apples in neat pyramids. Miguel worked the register. Nadia was in Sacramento, starting her first semester at UC Davis. Life had settled into a new rhythm. Quieter, simpler. Celia's mother came over, carrying a crate of tomatoes. "You doing okay?" she asked. "Yeah," Celia said. "I think I am." Elena smiled. "You know, I worried about you for years. Thought you were too patient, too forgiving." "I was." "But you weren't weak," her mother said. "You were waiting for the right moment." Celia looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Some women leave too early," Elena said. "They panic, run. But you stayed until you had proof, until you could finish it properly." Celia thought about that, about the note from the nurse, the footage, the emails. "I didn't want to just leave," she said. "I wanted him to face what he did." And he did. Yeah. They worked in silence for a while, sorting fruit, helping customers. Then Miguel called out, "Mom, someone's asking for you." Celia turned. A woman stood near the register, tall, professional, holding a business card. "Mrs. Moreno," the woman said. "My name's Jennifer Reed. I'm a reporter with the local paper. I was hoping to talk to you about your case, about insurance fraud and family betrayal. I think your story could help other women recognize the warning signs." Celia considered it. Part of her wanted privacy, wanted to move on quietly. But another part, a stronger part, wanted people to know what happened. Wanted other women to see that you didn't have to stay silent, that you could fight back. "Okay," she said. "Let's talk." The article ran 2 weeks later. It didn't use Celia's name. She'd requested anonymity, but it told the story. The staged accident, the affair, the stolen money, the family confrontation. It ended with a quote from Celia. "I spent 21 years believing that patience and forgiveness would save my marriage. But some things can't be saved. And that's okay, because once I stopped trying to fix him, I could finally protect myself and my children. That's not weakness. That's survival." The article was shared hundreds of times. Women reached out, thanked her, said they'd been in similar situations and didn't know what to do. Celia read every message. She didn't respond to most of them, but she kept them, saved them in a folder on her phone. Proof that telling the truth mattered. One evening, months later, Celia sat on the porch of her house. The sun was setting. The air smelled like jasmine. Miguel came outside and sat beside her. He was 15 now, taller, more serious. "You ever hear from Dad?" he asked. "No," Celia said. "Do you want to?" Miguel shook his head. "I don't think so. Not yet." "That's okay." They sat in silence. A car passed on the street. A dog barked somewhere. "Mom." Miguel said, "Are you happy?" Celia thought about it. Really thought. "I'm not angry anymore," she said. "And I'm not scared. So yeah, I think I am." Miguel nodded. "Good." He stood and went back inside. Celia stayed on the porch, watching the sky turn from orange to purple to dark blue. She thought about Luis, about the hospital room, about the note from the nurse. "He's lying to you." She'd known it already, had felt it for years. But knowing and proving were different things. And she'd done both. Celia stood, stretched, walked inside. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and that was enough.